Howdy, Michigan. I hope you can hear me tonight. Work camping? Yes, yes, indeed. Working in Amana, Iowa. Hi, all. Hope things are going well for you tonight. Audio, video check. Everything good? Oh, I'll be right back. I'll be back in like 20, 30 seconds. Okie dokie, great. Yeah, I had to turn the my air cleaner off. It makes a little noise, and I could hear it in last week's video when I rewatched it. Let's see here. Run a little late tonight, but I think I got it going. I had a little bit of audio trouble. Excellent, thanks, Aaron. Hello, Dream on Wheels. Randy Waller, hello there. We were talking about you last week. Hope your house is going well. Well, your lot, anyway. Oh, and Linda's here from Camp Goer 1. The CNS and Schoolie Project. Hi, bud. Great to have you guys aboard. Well, we got quite a few on, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Good evening and welcome aboard, everybody. Glad to have you here with me tonight. As a brief reminder, jump over and leave us a comment over in the live chat window and let us know where you're watching from tonight, if I don't already know. Let's see, Camp Goer 1, she's usually in the Phoenix area. Randy's in Iowa. Oh, and there's Larry McBride, Rainy, Arkansas. Yeah, I talked to my dad, who's in northwest Arkansas. He's about 60 miles east of Springdale, Bentonville area. And he said it's been raining, and he needs to get out and mow his lawn, and he hasn't had a chance because it's been so wet. Enterprise, Alabama. Hello, Kevin Harvey. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining us tonight. Beautiful East Tennessee, yeah. Over around Knoxville, I'm guessing, huh, CNS? I have driven through that area quite a bit. We'll kill a little time here. I did a project over in Floyd, Virginia, in 2013, where I spent 4 months up on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and drove back and forth across the U.S. four times that year, paying $4+ a gallon for diesel. That will set you back and make you take a deep breath when you have to pay $800-900 to fill your diesel tank. Anyway, and I drove through the Knoxville area multiple times and really like that area. Sue Kelly, hello. I have a little bit of a workup for you. Randy says he caught last week's episode late. Oh no, it wasn't you, Randy. Sorry, you you dodged the bullet last week. It was Jim that we were talking about last week. Hello, y'all. Texas here. Hi, Dwayne Walker. Welcome aboard. Okay, so ham radio. Yeah, you see it. That's an FT101E, Aaron. And I don't have a call sign anymore. The long short story is I've mentioned before in the past that I did radio for 23 plus years. And when I got out of the military, I had a general radio telephone license. And so I was basically the operating engineer for a group of radio stations, my last job. I was operations manager. But I was also the engineer in charge, and I didn't realize that they had, what'd they call it, time shadowed, whatever. And I missed the window of opportunity to convert my general radio telephone to an expert class ham radio license. And so I'm going to go back, I guess, and I got the technician book and I've taken the online test a couple times and I blew through it with no problem. So I'll probably just go and pick up a technician's license, and then I'll have to work through and work my way up the chain to get it. Mostly I just been listening. Well, I have only been listening. I haven't transmitted on that radio. I don't even know if it transmits. Donald Packard, hi, welcome aboard. When I get a call sign, I will definitely let you guys know. KE7FRM expired. Hi, Sue Kelly. You had your amateur license. That's great. I love listening to the skip. It's pretty fun. Okay, so we've chatted around here enough. Sue asked me last week, and this is going to take a few minutes to talk about today, about doing off-grid air conditioning, basically with solar. And so I went out and did a little research and found a couple pretty cool things. Let me see if and I've also been experimenting here a little bit, and hopefully you can see that. Let me move this over here so I can monitor y'all. We'll close this, and let's close that, and then let's go here and go here. Okay, so what I've done is, actually we'll go here, and let's just go here for just a minute, because let's see, from the beginning, that's not what we want. Okay, well, anyway, I'm actually going to do a little article on this. There's many out there, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little article on this, and that is basically running your air conditioning on solar for RVers. I said last week, in my opinion, it's not very practical because of the amount of battery storage capacity you need. And that's really the way it worked out. So over on Renogy's website, they have something called the solar sizing calculator. And so we're going to run that here real quick and show you the situation you get into with trying to run air conditioner off grid. So we're going to use a theory, well, let's just say, for example, a mini split AC system is going to pull around, let's say, 1,300 watts, okay, just to have something to talk about. That is about how much my rooftop air conditioning units pull each, is about 1,300 watts. So what we're going to do is say, what is the total watts your electronics can consume? Now, keep in mind, we're only looking at, I got to change something here just a moment. Sorry for the, okay. Let's do that. So this is sorry about that. It's a good thing I went over and checked. I forgot to swap screens. So anyway, where was I? Okay, so we're saying that we're gonna calculate a mini split. We're gonna assume that it uses 1,300 watts, and so over here on the Renogy's website, this is renogy.com/calculators. You can see it right up here. Anyway, we're gonna put in 1,300 watts. Now, we're going to assume that you're in a hot climate. I think, Sue, you're up in Camp Verde. No, you were in Show Low. I think, I can't remember. I'm getting old and my memory's slipping away from me. But let's put the number 10 hours in there. What I'm assuming is that throughout a 24-hour day, in a hot climate, your AC, your air conditioner, is going to run a total of 10 hours a day. We're going to fiddle with these numbers in a bit and show you the results. Now, for your charge controller, I'm going to assume MPPT. And by the way, if you want to find out the difference between MPPT and PWM, solar charge controllers, I have a great video where I installed solar on my RV on my channel. You can find it over on my channel. Also, you can look at, there's a playlist on my channel with all of my RV how-to videos in it. And the video for doing the solar on my RV is up there, and I have a quite extensive discussion on charging batteries and the differences between PWM, pulse width modulation, and MPPT, maximum power point. We're going to assume 92% efficiency, and then the number of hours of sun per day. Let's assume, again, it's midsummer, it's Arizona. You're going to have 14 hours of sun per day. And let's run those numbers and see what we end up with. So the minimum system size is solar. This is solar panels that you would need are 928 watts. The recommended is 1,000 watts. But here's the kicker. Your recommended battery size, 12 volts, 2,166 amp hours. That's a lot of batteries. If we assume you're using something like the Battleborns, the 12 volt Battleborns are 100 amp hours each. And so technically you would need 22 batteries. 22 batteries at $900 a piece is a ton of money. Well, let's change this. Let's say you only need it for 8 hours a day. You still need 1,700 amp hours. Let's say it's a smaller system. Let's go down to 1,000 watts. Oops. 1,000. Let's go 8, 92, and 14. You need 1,333 amp hours. That's still 13 batteries. So the long and short of it is trying to run. That's, again, this is just your AC, and I'm being pretty kind here. Let's cut this down to 5 hours. But let's say we also only have 10 hours of sun, and we calculate that. 833 amp hours. You would need 8 batteries approximately. Thank you, Aaron, for going and getting that link. Excuse me, I've got a frog. I can't even talk tonight. I need a drink of tea. And let me go back over here, and let's go back to this. And then over here, and so I can look at your questions and comments. Okay. Julie Gage, E Squared, good to see you. Someone live from Michigan, yeah. Bonita, California till June. Oh, Julie is in Bonita. That's beautiful country there. Okay, about 20 minutes from AA. Oh, excellent. Okay, big money. Yeah, big money to do solar and run an AC off-grid. Okay, a couple 3 hours tops. Let's pop back over there and see what we get if we run it for 3 hours. I personally think that 1,000 watts is pretty low for a mini split system of around 9,000 BTUs. So I think we better go up to 1,200 watts. And then you've also got all of your other load through the day, which is air conditioner, would be like microwaves, TVs, anything else you have plugged in on AC. But let's just go to 1,200 watts and 92%, and we have 10 hours of sun a day. Let's calculate that. 600 amp hours. So now you're kind of getting down to 6 batteries. I have 4, okay? I have 4 in my rig. And I'll be honest with you, in my rig, I boondocked 114 days in 2009. Boondock, dry camp. Those are equal to me. And in that time period, I have 1,860 watts of solar on my roof. And I could got 6 hours of sun a day, I never had to run my generator. And in fact, in all of those days being off grid like that, I only had to run the generator for 9 hours total all summer, and 4 of those hours were exercise hours. So I was exercising the generator, to keep it in maintenance, in good maintenance and running properly. Yeah, CNS, 21,000 for batteries. How many batteries are you putting in your rig, and what types, CNS? Oh, Aaron put the link up. Sue has 4 T110s. I don't recognize that battery. Who's the manufacturer on that? Yeah, it's pretty expensive, isn't it? Yeah, it's really high. A small window AC. Okay, let's go calculate that one for you real quick. Let me run over here and open up. Oops, just a minute here. I got a new setup here. I've finished up all of my recordings for my next series of how-to videos, and I'll be getting those out here shortly. But I did quite a bit of work last week on getting this streaming system set up correctly so I could work with it. So I think we're back. Yeah, okay, that's looking good. We're back to that. I'm going to go back over here. A small window AC. Let's figure 500 watts. In a hot climate, let's figure 5 hours a day. 92% efficient, you get 10 hours of sun, 416 amp hours, so 400 amp hour batteries. Now, I'm assuming lithiums, which you get your full 100 amp hours for. Keep in mind that if you go to lead acid, double all those numbers. So even on lead acid, it's really impractical. I mean, where are you going to put 30 batteries in your RV? Let's assume that load is 400 watts and you need it for 4 hours a day and you get 10 hours of sun. Okay, so now you're down to 266 amp hours, more or less. That's just for the AC. Okay, that's just for your air conditioning. So it is practical, I think, if you run it for a minimal amount of time. Now, having spent last fall, or having spent last spring of 20 in Tucson, where the temperature was, pretty warm. I was there in May, and that May, my AC would turn on in the morning, usually around 10, and it wouldn't shut off till 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 at night. And in my Class A, I would have to run both ACs to keep it reasonably comfortable, 80, 82, 84 degrees, something like that. So when I see this, as far as if you're going to be in a hot climate, it's just not practical. However, if you're in a reasonable climate, okay, so like in Idaho here, you might need AC for a couple hours in the late afternoon to help cool things down a little bit so it's more comfortable. I found myself in that situation before. So okay, so covered that small window AC. Oh, and Randy is an HVAC guy. He's been doing HVAC for years. As a 30-year HVAC guy, I should say mini splits seem like a good idea, but they're not made to install on a vehicle and truck down the road. There's that. You see a lot of them out there. I know that Chris, what's his channel? He changed the name of his channel, but he built a bus, and he had a mini split on his. And also Wes, I do remember him. He is Transcend Existence. He's the bus guy out there that is doing the lifts, doing the roof lifts. Does an amazingly good job with those. So they both had mini splits on theirs. But that's a good point, Randy. Frog in the throat. Yeah, throat in the frog. Our own battery bank cost is fifth or less. Okay. Good to know, CNS. I got something to look forward to on your channel. I think it's all good. Camp Grow One, been doing it for 30 years. Okay. I get 30 bolts on a 24 volt system, about 6 hours a day. Okay. 30 bolts. I'm not following you there. Is that a fat finger? Yeah, it is a good tool, CNS. I like Renogy's website. Okay, so it looks like CNS is going to do. Oh, you're doing those. Okay, the Lycan. 560 amp hours in their bus. That's a good amount. Zeppelin Travels. Thank you, CNS. Yep. Thank you very much. As a reminder, if you're just joining the stream, be sure and drop us a comment over in the live chat window. Let us know where you're watching from. Also, if you have a question or comment, feel free to ask it. If I don't know the answer, somebody in the stream might. And if they don't, then I'll make a note of it and look it up. We had a gentleman on last week that had a leaking vacuum breaker. And Gayton was his name. He had commented, and we went back and forth a little bit, so I'll catch you up on what he has done. I don't see him in the chat. Gayton, if you're out there, let us know. Anyway, he said that he had gone and he had cleaned everything and soaked his valve and everything in vinegar, but I hadn't heard back from him. I did a little bit of research on this, and inside of those vacuum breakers, there's a little valve, a little piece of rubber that bounces back and forth. So when there is no pressure in the system, this little valve opens and lets air in the top. And it was that little hole in the top that was leaking, is what he reported back. I haven't heard back from him, so I don't know if he got it fixed or what, but it's on my list. Thank you. Oh, Gary Boyd back again. Okay. Oh, yeah, the fridge install. Yeah. Thanks, Guy. I did install a residential fridge in my new Dutch Star. Oh, I guess it was approximately 2017. The long short story is that I was in Arizona for winter. I was actually up at Picacho Peak, which is about 25 minutes north of Tucson, just off of I-10 there. And I had the old Never Cold 1200. And actually 2 years, was it 2013? I guess it was 4 years before that. I had put on what is commonly called an Amish kit. Now, I didn't get an Amish kit. It turns out there was a company about an hour south of my dad in Conway, Arkansas, that was in the business of rebuilding these cooling systems like they call the Amish kit. And so essentially what it is on those Norcolds, you take the whole cooling unit off of the cabinet itself, and you put a brand new well, it's not brand new, but a rebuilt cooling unit on. And that thing lasted about 4 years. Well, what happened is that I had to leave for about 8 days. I left right after the first of the year. I had an uncle pass away, and so I had to come back up to Idaho here, where I am now, and go to his funeral. And it was nasty. The roads were horrible, and so I hung out for a couple, 3 extra days. So I was really gone for about 12 days. Well, when I got home, you would have thought something had died inside my RV, and something did, because the fridge did. But it must have been dead for a while, because I go in and you could smell it. And then I opened the fridge door, and oh my God, it liked to knock me on my feet, off my feet. And I'm like, oh, this is, And I was kind of upset, so I went out and checked everything out, and it looked like to me like it wasn't cooling correctly. Obviously, it wasn't. And I had it. So I immediately got online and did some research and found that the Samsung RF18 fridge would fit perfectly in the cabinet that the 1200 was in. And with the doors off, it fit perfectly through my entry door. A lot of the times, the problem with putting a residential fridge in your RV is getting the fridge in the RV. A lot of people have to take out windows. I know people who have taken out windshields to get this fridge in so they could put their residential fridge in. Well, I got lucky and I was able to slide it right in through the door, no special modifications needed. I had to take off the screen door, but no big deal. The best, well, as I mentioned to you, CNS, the best upgrade I made to that RV was the residential fridge, without a doubt. It was a game changer, but you got to have the power. So here was the result of that. That year it would have been the spring summer of 2018, and I was boondocking. I didn't have the solar that I have now. I only had about 200 watts. And I had lead acid batteries. I had 4 GC2 interstate batteries. And the net result was I would have to run the generator 4 hours a day to keep the fridge running and to have power through the day. Anything less than, and it wasn't always 4 hours. Some days it would be a little less, some days a little more, but it averaged out to about 4 hours a day. And when you do the math on that, just to make it easy, the generator pulls about 0.6 of a gallon of diesel an hour. Quick math tells me it was $10 a day in diesel to boondock. I guess that's still cheaper than being on hookups. Post that, the number I was just telling you about, the summer of 19, where I boondocked 114 days, still had the fridge, everything else, but I had the solar and the lithium, and that made all the difference. The second best upgrade I did to my RV was putting in the tankless water heater. It was a perfect fit. I had the Atwood 10-gallon. It slid right in the hole. I had to buy a new door, which is no big deal, and I painted the door to match the RV. That was easy. I just used an airbrush. I have a little airbrush system, and I just painted it, and it was perfect. But having endless hot water was a game changer. No more Navy showers. Nothing personal, Aaron. No more Navy showers. Bing, bang, boom. You get in the shower and run it all day if you wanted to. And the Girard water heater that I put in was sipped propane. It was amazing how little propane it used compared to the old tank-style water heater. All right, let's go back here to the comments. Linda, Campgoer 1, yes. I would say your 2,000 watt generator should run a small window AC, no problem. Timothy Norman from Dayton, Ohio. Okay, great. I am having a hard time finding a slide-out motor for my 2004 Georgie Boy Cruisemaster. Does anyone know where I can find the part? That's a really good question. There are a couple of companies out there. I'm trying to think of the name of one of them that do RV parts that you might reach out to. It'll come to me in just a second. Aaron, you got any ideas? You think of anybody that is doing RV parts where Timothy might be able to find out where he could get a slide motor? And let's see, I had a comment down here. Oh, yeah, the ice in the door had me rolling, the water. Yeah, that's the thing with having the residential fridge is that you hit the brakes sometimes too hard and everything always ends up against the front wall of the fridge. Oh, yeah, and Aaron got the link in there. Might be HWH or another company or Georgie Boy. Okay, yeah, good. Gary. Can't pay attention to surge watts. Well, I was thinking about that, and actually, CNS, a small window AC probably won't pull a big enough surge to trip off the generator. If it does, then a soft start might be in order. And I think a soft start would work just fine on a window AC. But Linda, you'd probably have to find somebody to install it for you. That might be a little technical. I'm not saying anything bad about you. I'm just saying that that could be tricky. RBW Industries. Okay, Timothy says RBW Industries, and they are out of business. Let's see. Gary says, then I would look at the motor and look for tags or a part number. Yeah, also if there's a forum for your motorhome, that is usually a great place. Absolutely. Timothy, you might look over on irv2.com. I'm positive they have a Georgie Boy forum over there, and you would find that under the owners forums. Let me see if we can flop this over here real quick. Let's go back to this, and let's just go run and check real quick. Let's go here. Oops. And let's see, that's a Georgetown, right? Georgie Boy. So who is the manufacturer of that? Who's your manufacturer? As you can see here, that there's quite a few in here, and you might just generally do a search. Let's just look for that. Slide motor. Let's not get too specific. Let's just see what we can find. Okay, that's an unanswered question. But look at that. So there you go. I would go over to this forum, irv2.com, and ask the question, and I'll bet you'll find an answer. I bet you'll find somebody that can answer that question for you and help you out, help you find the part. And that's fine. Sometimes it's fine information, Gary. You're welcome, Timothy. Let's see. Lippert. Okay, Lippert. John Shade, Lippert. Lippert. Interesting. That's the one right there. Visionary. Yeah. Okay. Okay, but the camp goer, Linda. Turning on the motor in your blow comb is a very small motor, so it only pulls a little bit of amperage when it starts up. You're talking about a compressor in an air conditioner. That's a much larger motor, and the surge current when it starts, the amount of current it will pull, remember, to get that motor turning, is going to be a lot more than your blow comb. So your blow comb is going to draw a more constant 1875 watts in your case, but it might only, and so if we do the quick math on, excuse me, if we do the quick math on that, it's a little bit less than 15 amps. So it wouldn't trip breakers or anything like that. On an AC unit like that, it might take 20 or 25 amps for a couple of milliseconds, just a very small amount of time to get that motor, get the inertia in that motor started and turning that motor. So that's what CNS was talking about, is that surge current. And remember, we talked about having a soft start, I think this is a couple weeks ago, and all a soft start does is adds a couple of extra capacitors which store energy like a battery, but release it really fast, and they give it that boost. It gives the motor that boost it needs to get turning and turn on. However, a small window AC, I don't think you'll have trouble. I hope. You're funny, Linda. You're very welcome, Timothy. Can do is find electric motor shop where they rebuild them and put new bearings, brushes, etc. in. Absolutely. Absolutely. John Shade is asking, what size Jenny? On my RV, I have an 8 kilowatt PowerTech. And it's more than enough to run both of my air conditioners, and provide me with it. It's enough to run my whole RV, no problems. 8 kilowatts is more than enough. And in fact, I've boondocked with people before, and when I've been running the generator, I'll run an extension cord over from their travel trailer. I could think of my one friends who have a travel trailer, and plug into my rig and charge their batteries off of my Jenny. In fact, I had two different rigs, two different friends of mine camping with me. This has been a couple, 3 years ago now, but they both ran extension cords over, and I charged both of their travel trailers and my RV off of my generator. Yep, you're pretty funny there, camp goer, Linda. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so I have a couple other things I'll chat about real quick. I get a lot of heat on my BioGeo method video. Um, the BioGeo method meaning the easily maintaining your RV's holding tanks. And one of the things that I always get beat about is wearing gloves when I am dumping my holding tanks. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I'm out of gloves, I'm not going to sweat it because, when I get done, I'm going to go wash my hands. All right? I mean, thoroughly. But I get beat about the head and neck frequently around. People comment back on that. And I always think of it this way. When you had kids and you were changing their nappy diapers, did you rush out and put on a pair of gloves every time you changed the diapers? I don't know that dealing with your hoses on your holding tanks is any different than having to deal with a poopy diaper on a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. Anyway, that's my opinion. Good to know I have more than one friend. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I have two. You guys are funny tonight. But I get beat about the head and neck about that all the time. Yes, I think it's a good idea to wear gloves, but I would also argue that 70% of people don't know how to take gloves off properly. So if you got them gloves on and they're covered with water, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of poo phobia out there. But if you're taking them off improperly, you're going to get your damn hands all contaminated anyway. And then that water, as you're trying to take the gloves off, is going to be spritzing around. You're going to have poo water on your face. Oh my God. Anyway, if your sensibilities are that you need to wear gloves to make you feel better when you're dumping your holding tanks, go for it. It doesn't bother me. Sorry. Blow comb. Haven't seen that for 30 years. Yeah, I know. I actually have a blow comb. What do you call them nowadays? Randy. Yeah, all the poop germs on a baby's butt. Yeah, John, I mean, really, think about it, Uh, especially in this age of coronavirus when we're all wearing masks. And it was amazing how many people I saw when I was in Tucson last spring when the coronavirus first hit that were wearing gloves in the grocery stores and various places. Um, again, if you don't know how to take gloves off properly, you're wasting your time, honestly. Cute gloves with flowers on them to dump the tanks. Oh, that's a good point, Aaron. I hadn't thought about that. That's probably true. You can tell a full timer to a weekend warrior. Gloves are not. Yeah, I got you. I think that full timers are probably a little less likely to wear gloves. I mean, especially if you're parked static for a while, you're not handling the hose, right? All you're doing is handling the handle on on the valves. And, I suppose if you were worried about it, take a Clorox wipe and go out and wipe those handles off. But, I mean, you damn well better be washing your hands when you're done, that's for sure. That's pretty funny, Larry. Cute. So does having the gloves with the flowers on it make it easier to dump the tank? Gary Boyd, I have a hair dryer and it gets used to thaw locks for the last 25 years. Yeah, that's a good point. I have a hair dryer, blow dryer. I don't have much hair. I've actually used it to strip stickers off my RV before that have faded. Boy, that's a pet peeve. If you want to talk about pet peeves for a second, I love buying those oval national park stickers, and I got some when I was at Devil's Tower last 2 years ago now. And I was noticing the other day when I was out finished doing the final touches on the RV, getting it washed and cleaned up and ready for pictures, that those stickers had totally faded out. So I actually used that hair dryer that I have to peel those stickers off. In fact, it's probably a little more safe using a hair dryer than it would be to use a heat gun. I didn't have a heat gun. The hair dryer worked fine. Yeah, yeah, my head's kind of sleek in the wind too. Actually, what my deal is my forehead's growing. I have my grandpa's hair, my grandpa on my mom's side, which I think is where the hair comes from. Hello, Ron. Welcome aboard. Oh, hey, aren't you special? Getting a brand new 2021 Canyon Denali four-wheel drive to tow behind the motorhome. Heading up this way at the end of May. Great. Just let me know when you're coming. You've got my email address. And yeah, we can definitely connect somehow. Yeah, CNS, memory serves, you've got more hair on your face than you do on your head. Isn't there an old joke about your hair sliding off your head and you end up with more on your back than you do on your head? I can't remember that one, but there seems like there's an old joke about that. Okay, any more questions? Any other Weisenheimers out there? That's fine. Be sure and drop a comment. Otherwise, I think we'll probably wrap her up a little earlier tonight. Okay. Well. Oh. Okay, so Larry says, on my older Allegro, I have to sit down on the ground to reach one of the valves to dump, so a little germ ain't going to hurt. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, Randy, not enough hair to worry about. Yeah, I get you there. Uh, the Onan, okay, John Shade. Any opinions on the Onan 2500 LP on your 2005 Advance? I'm assuming you're saying LP generator. I think LP generators are fine, especially if they're built. I know that the dual fuel generators, from what I've seen online, are persnickety. And I would think that would be the case in general with a dual fuel generator. I'm talking dual fuel, gas or propane, because of the difference in the fuel source. I'm not really familiar with them, but I will say that, and I just watched this. I saw this. I was on Aaron Jameson's channel yesterday or day before. I don't remember, but something I haven't talked about, which I think if you have a travel trailer with propane tanks, particularly an older one, that your propane tanks may be out of date. I would recommend that you go over and watch his video on the propane tanks. He gives a good rundown on the propane tanks. There was a big change, and I'm trying to remember. It's been a while back, 3 or 4 years or so, that the valves changed, and a lot of people had to go get new propane tanks because they couldn't be refilled by law. So I would think that a lot of those have flushed out of the system. However, there's a great video on Aaron's channel around propane tanks that might be worth going and checking out. I think an LP generator is fine. I'm assuming it's probably kind of quiet. Onans usually are fairly quiet. The only thing I know of about the Onans is that a friend of mine has an Onan in his, it's a Montana fifth wheel. I think it's a Montana. Don't quote me on that. And he had to replace his voltage regulator twice. And they're really easy to replace. Find the instructions online, you buy the part. Actually, in my generator, I had to replace the voltage regulator a couple years ago. Again, really easy to get the part. I called PowerTech directly, the manufacturer of my generator, and they still had the voltage regulator, and bing, bang, boom, I was in and gone. Okay, Peggy Bloomfield just bought a 1997 7.3 Ford ambulance with 93,000 miles on it. What is the most common tools that I will need to pick up? Okay, that's a good question. In general, I think go to Harbor Freight Tools if you have one nearby, and just pick yourself up a say and metric socket set. They're fairly inexpensive, come in a box. You can get them on Amazon. In fact, if you'd like to support the channel, there's a link in the description for this video to my Amazon store. Go to Amazon and search for socket sets. It'll come with ratchet and all that kind of stuff. That's basically a good tool to have with you. A cordless drill is really pretty handy. Amazingly pretty handy. I would say an inexpensive cordless drill. Doesn't need to be expensive, but that'll give you the ability to zip screws in and out. Screwdriver set with Phillips and standard screwdrivers. You don't see a lot of standard screws anymore. They're Phillips. Sometimes they're star screws. But in an ambulance that old, you're not going to run into too many weird bolts screws that you're going to have to deal with there. A good flashlight, a very good flashlight, and then get yourself an emergency roadside kit that will have marker triangles, okay? Oftentimes they have lights that flash. Those are really good to have. There's other things in those kits. Jumper cables would be good to have. An inexpensive 12-volt air compressor is a really handy tool, particularly if you have kids visiting, grandkids that have blow-up toys. I know that I use my little airless compressor to blow up toys all the time. Inflatable floatables, you know what I mean. Let me think. Other tools that would be handy to have. I think that's a good start. And a good quality extension cord is a nice handy tool to have. Because if you're out and about and let's say you want some power out for whatever reason, if you've got an inexpensive, we're talking $10 extension cord, 25-footer, that's a pretty handy tool to have. I'm just trying to think the tools I used most often when I was traveling full-time. Hammer. That ought to do it. That inspires me to write a article about that and maybe do a video. Thank you, Peggy. That's great that you bought the ambulance. I'm assuming you're going to convert it, and are you going to have a YouTube channel, or are you just going to sneakily convert it and go out and boondock? 93,000 miles on a Ford ambulance. I think if it just came out of service, if it was an ambulance up until you bought it, I think ambulances would be a very good value because they're going to be maintained immaculately. They have to be ready to run all the time. And so buying an old emergency vehicle like that, and there's a couple of YouTube channels out there, the Campulance. I just watched a video of his the other day, but he's in a converted ambulance, and I bet you if you went to YouTube and looked for converted ambulance, you're going to find more than that channel that I've come across. But you probably get a lot of tips there on converting an ambulance. Yeah, great. Thanks for posting that. Yeah, John Shade says, yeah, he had to have both tanks certified, just an inspection and a stamp. Yep, that's good. There you go. CNS Schoolie says he learned from Aaron that he has an ASME propane tank and don't need to get it recertified. The same thing with, like, I went and had mine checked because in my 2004, it's an older rig, but I found out that the permanently mounted tanks, they didn't change the valves in those, and they're fine. They didn't need to be recertified or anything. Thanks, Randy. I will. Okay, so you have an Onan on board. Linda Campgoer one says she has an Onan on board. I'll get back to you in just a minute. I want to. Gary Boyd, OPD valves changed propane tanks that 15, 16 years ago. Time flies. Yeah, I guess. 15 that long ago? Yeah, that's true. And that's a really good point, Gary, is comment back on the LP generator. You don't have to worry about fuel stabilizer or any of that stuff. And LP generators run 10 times, 100 times cleaner than a gas generator. Um, so they're not only good for the environment, but they also, they put off less pollution. So that's going to be nicer to be around if you're having to run it while you're outside the RV. Linda Campgoer one says she has an Onan that's not running. Yeah, they the older Onan gas Jennies have a real issue with the carburetor getting gunked up. Um, so that's the first place to look if it won't start, is to look at the carburetor. Um, what's his name? Oh, geez, I can't remember what's his name. Tom is his name, but he has a YouTube channel. He had an Onan generator that he needed the regulator set for, and it was like $200, which was more than the generator was worth. Thanks, Randy. I'll talk to you soon. Yeah, that's a good. Sue Kelly says, Peggy, don't mess with the wiring in that beastie. Yeah, you want to be real careful with that. But I believe those ambulances already have 110 power in them. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. Peggy was asking for tools. Get a weather radio. That's a good point, Linda. That reminded me. A weather radio is very valuable. I carry a weather radio in mine. In fact, my CB, I have a CB radio in my RV, doubles as an emergency weather radio. And so, and the nice thing about it is I have it wired to run off my house batteries. So I just leave it on whenever I was parked, and it would go off, and it was, thankfully, like, especially if you're out in the Midwest where they have a lot of tornadoes, or down in the Southeast, they just got drilled here yesterday. It's really nice to have that weather radio wake you up so you can go find shelter. Which reminds me, if you're out in those areas and you check into a campground, an RV park especially, ask them where their weather shelter is. Ask them where their tornado shelter is if they have one. Oh, is that right? Okay, I don't watch Bob's channel. There's a number of reasons for that maybe we'll talk about someday. Awesome, Peggy. Yeah, I bet you it's in good shape. I bet it is. Peggy says she bought it from the local fire department. Uh, she does want a full time for that video from you. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not sure, Linda. It could be done, changing portable generators from gas to propane. You have to change the carburetor. Larry McBride, hey, kind of asking, I'm thinking of fixing my Allegro. I need all four airbags, water heater, AC, four new tires, dash gauges fixed, and a few small things. Um, do I think 4 grand would do the job? I'm assuming, Larry, you're going to do this work yourself. Your four airbags, you're probably looking at 4 to 500 for. Water heater, if you do like I did and go with a tankless water heater, that was around 500, something like that. Your AC units, depending upon how big it is, they're probably between 800 and 1,000. Four new tires. Um, Depending upon the size of the tires, tires are kind of expensive. You're probably looking at least $200 a piece. Dash gauge is fixed. Hard to say on that. When you start getting into electrical work and you start trying to troubleshoot electrical problems and track them down, that gets really expensive really quick because it can take a long time, especially if you're not doing it yourself. 4 grand. I think you're a little light on the 4 grand. I think you're probably closer to 6. That's what my gut tells me. That's a good point, Aaron. Linda, check the fuel filter on your generator and make sure it's not plugged up. That's true. John Slade says he's heard that LP Jennies also have minimal carb issues like the gas units. And the reason for that is propane is so much cleaner than gasoline. You know, propane fuel, it doesn't have any particulate matter in it. So there's nothing for it to really clog up. The jets and the carburetor and those sorts of things stay really clean and pristine. So, that's a good point. I'm glad. I would totally agree with you, John, that LP Jennies are, they're cake. But they still need to be maintained. You still need to change the oil regularly, change your filters, those sorts of things. Especially your air filter if you're living in and running in a in dirty conditions. Yeah, good point. Okay, let's see. Okay, good one, Ron. Yeah, the newer Onins do give fault codes. 2005. There's probably a flashing LED of some sort that would be a fault code that you could look up by the number of flashes it's making. Gary Boyd comments to Peggy with the ambulance. How's Fuel's lubricity conditioner for that 7.3 diesel engine? Yeah, run a few ounces in every tank. Save you a lot of headaches. That's true. And Peggy, if you're in a cold climate, I recommend Power Service Cetane Boost Winterizer for your fuel. It also cleans your injectors, and I run that regularly in my RV. Yeah, good point, Gary. Yeah, that's a good. House makes good stuff for sure. Every 250 to 500 runtime hours, Linda. Linda asks, how often does all this need to be changed on generators? Oil, filters, fuel filter, all that, usually every 250 to 500 hours of runtime. Check the owner's manual. They'll tell you what your maintenance intervals should be. On my big Jenny, which is diesel, I run 250 hours and then I do all the service, oil, filter, fuel filter in my case, air filter if it needs it, um, and the whole set of filters and everything. It's around $25, and of course, and then there's a shy 2.5 quarts of oil, maybe three. Um, for $35, I'm servicing my generator. If you take it to the dealer, it's going to cost you 100 easy, maybe 150. Larry McBride, trying to decide whether it would be better to trade or fix. It only has less than 70,000 on it and an 87 model. Larry, tune in next week. We will talk about mileage on RVs and what I think about that. In short, I think, in my personal opinion, mileage is not the most important thing to be looking at when you're buying an RV. Frankly, I think if you want to buy an RV, I would buy one with high mileage. And the reason I say that is that RV's been used. If your RV's setting for months at a time, you're not using it, seals dry up, all kinds of trouble starts to happen. And I'm not saying it. However, a well-maintained RV, like don't hurt yourself, pat yourself on the back, but like I do with my rig, every month I go out, I start the generator, I let it warm up, I put it under load. Every month I go out, I start the engine. If I can, I drive it around, get it out, move it around, get the oil moving through the system. It helps keep things out of it. I actually have, it reminds me of an article I have on my website around winter maintenance that I talk about all those sorts of things, and it might be worth going over and watching, reading. Thanks, Aaron. Yes, I saw that. Thank you, though. Look at that. Timothy has his fix. Excellent. Great. Glad to hear that, Timothy. That's why we're here, and I'm very happy that you found it. Share this information with your friends. While I'm thinking about it, a thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you're not subscribed, because I've got like 9 RV how-to videos booked up, and they'll be starting to come out here very soon. Yeah, Ron, I would agree. RL Bunge, Ron, I know Ron. They were camp hosting at Blackfoot Reservoir 2 summers ago, and he's been a longtime viewer of the channel, and I stayed right across the road from them for a week a couple summers ago out at the campground they were hosting at. We had a great time. Yeah, my diesel 8K, 6/10 of a gallon an hour under full load, so very very fuel efficient. Let's see. Linda says, you bought it 4 to 5 years ago. It hasn't been used except in my driveway a half an hour. Yeah, that's. You probably need to do some maintenance on that, Jenny. And my guess is that the carburetor probably needs to be cleaned. That's one of the most common problems with those Zonins that make them not want to start or run properly. Okay, we're going to wrap this up here real quick. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Sue. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Oh, Ron says he got his Onan in his '05 Cayman, and that was a nice ride. Is a nice ride. Was a nice ride. That was your fifth wheel, right? Excellent. Thank you, Aaron, for running out there and finding that. Okay. Well, we're an hour in, and I think we had another great session. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, again, that thumbs up is always appreciated. It makes Google pay attention to me and ranks my video a little higher. If you're not subscribing, thank you. That's great. Supporting me on my Amazon store, I'm overwhelmed at times. As an Amazon affiliate, I get a very small commission, but you pay the same price, and every little bit helps. One last call for alcohol. Alrighty. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We will see you next Tuesday. And next Tuesday, we're going to talk about high mileage versus low mileage RVs. Until we get together next week, peace. Bye-bye.